Today is a big day for the unemployed, which means it's a big day for myself. Two huge YouTubers abroad in Japan and Oriental Pearl are now fighting in public just like mom and dad used to do, with Oriental Pearl putting out a long ranting video where she calls out abroad in Japan for gatekeeping Japan-related content while calling him a cunt and asking to be his friend. And to be honest, I'm not a bit surprised to see this happen. You see, years ago I made this video making fun of the popular trend at the time where YouTubers would go around quote-unquote shocking people with their language skills. One of those YouTubers was Oriental Pearl, as she was getting tens of millions of views doing them. In my video, I pointed out that some of the people in her videos clearly didn't want to be involved, and I think it would be for the best if YouTubers did not film people like their zoo animals for their content. Around the time I had like 200 subscribers, and unsurprisingly it didn't get any views as it was just a bad video. One thing that did surprise me though was that among the handful of people who watched the video, only a couple commented, and among them was Oriental Pearl herself, threatening me and telling me to never talk about her again. I told her that she shouldn't care what assholes like me say on the internet, and now years later I feel like she might have taken my advice too literally, as she's once again out there waging war against YouTubers. This all started a while ago, as Oriental Pearl has been following the trends on YouTube quite successfully throughout the years. After the shocking people with Japanese trend that Shiamao NYC started, she smoothly moved to Takashi-style street interviews, and now it seems like she's on a journey to show how Japan is over-romanticized so that people can visit the country with realistic expectations. Something I've heard someone else talk about before, but I just can't remember who it could have been. In any case, in order to do this, she made a video walking around Tokyo showing all the illegally parked bikes, graffiti drawn on the walls, and overgrown grass she could find during her filming. I get the idea for the video, as I have done something similar myself, but this was kind of a bad attempt at showcasing the quote-unquote downfall of Japan, as a couple of graffiti here and there and overgrown grass isn't too alarming, at least to myself. She did, however, also talk about the Toyoko kids and the homeless she saw, which are real issues, I'm not going to deny that. But at least to me, it just seemed like she took her camera with her and tried filming anything bad she could find in an attempt to make a shocking video. The video ended up being quite successful, breaking over 400,000 views a week, but in the grand scheme of things, it was supposed to be a nothing burger video that would eventually get buried deep under her other content. However, this all changed once Chris Broad from abroad in Japan found the video. The sensationalist Japan content is getting out of hand. A wall with some graffiti on in Shibuya doesn't mean Japan is at an end. There was graffiti in Shibuya 10 years ago, there's graffiti in Shibuya today. But unfortunately, positivity doesn't drive clicks. I was in Kabukicho, Shinjuku the other day and it was absurdly busy. Shame, it was a missed opportunity to point my camera at the rubbish and make a video decrying the end of Japan. Every minute online is a time better spent rummaging around Asia's biggest red light district with a GoPro looking for dirt. There's some serious ad revenue to be made, folks. Oriental Pearl quickly followed by replying to the post asking Chris to take it down, as it according to her leads to creator-on-creator harassment, and she's also allowed to have an opinion on Japan just like he is. Chris replied by saying that she is indeed allowed to have an opinion, but if she's not willing to have her opinion scrutinized, then she shouldn't bother making them publicly for cheap views. And that for years, people had been complaining to him about her content, and now, after watching this video, he could understand why. Sure, Chris is a bit aggro with these posts, but in the end, it's just another YouTuber yapping in a roundabout way how their content is better than yours. And it is probably true, since Chris does objectively make good videos, at least better than what I do. But in a situation like this, I would simply move on with my life. And since Oriental Pearl said in her reply that she doesn't want this thing to blow up or to start any drama, we can safely assume that she just let the situation be, right? Right?
I found this post from abroad in Japan.
She starts her rant video by going over Chris's post while making note of the typo he had made and saying that a millionaire like him shouldn't be bothered with what other people make on YouTube.
As a millionaire is telling me I'm making too much money, here's an actual snapshot of the revenue from the video, which is far below my average.
It is true that it's a bit weird for Chris to bring money into this, but also, I don't know why Oriental Pearl paints herself as this tiny YouTuber who only makes $2,000 just from ad revenue by walking around Tokyo for a day. She then says that if anyone here is making money, it's Chris with his sponsored content that she claims gives the wrong view of Japan, as in her opinion, those videos are just commercials made with the Tourism Bureau.
I want people to come to Japan with a balanced perspective of what the country actually is, not come here with rose-tinted glasses where everything is utopian. That's just not what it is.
What she's saying is fair, as I've said the same thing many times myself. But I think overall the mistake that she made here is that it seemed like she just took her GoPro with her and went outside looking for anything she could complain about in Tokyo. And even if that isn't true, that's how it came across. And some people like Chris thought it was in bad taste to go outside looking for things to complain about. She then defends her GoPro a bit more and says that if Chris has a problem with sensationalist or lazy content, instead of making a Facebook post, he could have just made a video about it.
I think Abroad in Japan is losing the plot here. Your win is my loss, territorial, my Japan, I'm the king of Japan. I think it comes more from being territorial about who has the right to film in Japan than it does about the actual things that I film. I don't think he really has a problem with the topics I choose. I think he has a problem with me. In the comments section, there were many comments that came in like this. You're like a prettier, not grumpy version of Chris Broad.
At this point, we're entering the part where the video starts truly going off the rails and turns into high school drama tier ranting about who's prettier, who makes better content, and who's being more sensationalist, as Pearl goes over Chris's coverage of the nuisance influencers and says that compared to what she makes, those videos are sensational and don't actually matter in the real world like her coverage of graffiti and homelessness.
Anything for that revenue. That's why I found that ironic. Is it just me or is that ironic? Like, definitely not for the money.
As someone who has talked a lot about nuisance influencers, I can tell you that she is right that Johnny Somali isn't the #1 issue in Japan. However, over-tourism, immigration and foreigners kind of are, at least in the news, and while nuisance influencers aren't themselves a huge problem, they are very much part of that bigger problem. And I, at least myself, as a foreigner living in Japan, am very much interested in issues relating to how foreigners are perceived here. But in the end, we're just talking about YouTube. To me, YouTube is a platform full of reaction videos, let's plays, drama, and whatever slop there is. And I don't think there's much to be gained for either of them from a dick measuring contest like this. I, at least myself, don't get annoyed when people make videos that I think are terrible and still rake in money. But do I get jealous? Honestly, a bit.
To me, it feels like looking down from an ivory tower and hawking a loogie at the people who do the lowly jobs with the GoPro, like me. But let's be honest, Chris has reached a point in his career where he could just about sit on a toilet and people would watch.
I get it, Pearl. Chris is a big YouTuber and it sucks that he doesn't like your content, but this isn't some David versus Goliath thing, as you have over 1 million subscribers yourself, and you also make what most people make in a month just by posting a single video. When you're rich, famous, successful, married, and your videos get millions of views, what does it matter what Chris or me or anyone thinks of your content when there's millions of people loving it? Making a 15-minute rant video which is getting ratioed to hell and arguing with people in the comments just because one guy made a Facebook post saying they don't like your videos simply isn't worth it. I've had people with millions of subscribers react to my content and make videos about my videos, some of them completely misinterpreting them, and here's how I've handled it. I really don't know what this video is about at all and why completely missed the point with everything. Also, if you're reading this, it's all good. I like you, no hard feelings, keep up the good work. But I have no idea what you smoked before doing this. Maybe one day we can do something together. Pearl then ends the video by trying to make amends by saying something nice about Chris.
Chris, you're being a Stop that. Stop. Okay, maybe now we really won't be friends. because I said that, or I made this video, but maybe this will make things better. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll make it much worse. I don't know. I just kind of assumed that I'm out of the circle, you know, abroad in Japan's group. From the very start, I felt the cold shoulder, and I kind of thought that everyone in Chris's friend group just didn't like me. I think there's no need for drama, but I followed you on Instagram, and I would love to start the conversation there.
I don't know Chris personally, but I'm gonna hedge my bet and say that calling him a isn't going to make things better. I also think that making this rant video arguing over who makes better content, who makes more money and who's the worst person, and then adding them on Insta to hopefully start a conversation is working these things a bit backwards. Because if it was me, I would have started with the private messages. And I can only assume things didn't go further in the DMs as Chris replied with this. For someone I've never met and whose name I only know as Oriental, she sure claims to know a lot about me. It turns out I'm a tyrant, a monster, an envious old fool who lives only to bask in her magnificent glory. As opposed to someone fed up of being sent her toxic YouTube videos and Instagram reels from viewers, wondering what I think about the so-called downfall of Japan. Only to then tune in and find a girl trolling around the back streets of Shinjuku like a hungry raccoon, looking for graffiti, intrigue, and trash cans to exploit. If you enjoy Oriental Pearl, allow me to recommend a few of her videos. If not what is happening to Japan, then certainly White Girl Speaks Japanese, Japanese People Shock, Surprise, Amazement. There's also White Girl Speaks Japanese, You Won't Believe What the Locals Did Next, and my personal favorite, Japanese React to White Girl Speaking Japanese, Sugoi Incredible. I should add for clarity, impressively, these are genuine actual videos on her channel, not me being sarcastic for once. Quality content for the ages indeed. At the end of the day, the question is if Chris is right in calling out Pearl's content, and that is for all of you to decide, but seeing the reaction from her, to me it seems like she does agree with Chris to some extent, as you wouldn't react like this if you didn't think there was some merit to those claims. I think it's fine to be insecure of your content, as I think most YouTubers are, considering they have to balance audience expectations and what they themselves want to make. And I'm sure even Chris has videos he isn't proud of himself either. I've noticed throughout the years that Pearl has been really defensive over her content, and maybe that's one of the reasons she's not in that YouTuber inside group like she'd want to be. But just because Chris is a big YouTuber doesn't mean you have to be friends with him. If he doesn't like you or your content, who cares? I don't think it's worth it to get too defensive, as these are just YouTube videos that people watch on the other monitor while they level up in RuneScape and argue on Reddit. There is simply no need to be upset. I'm sure neither Chris nor Pearl likes my slop either, and it's completely fine. If they want to voice their grievances, they can get in the line because there's 1,000 people before them ready to tear me a new one. This whole drama wouldn't have happened in the first place if Pearl simply ignored Chris's Facebook comments, and the less she argues about this online, the faster this will all blow over. I truly hope that no one out there actually goes and harasses either of these people, because even though Chris was being a bit harsh and Pearl was being a bit cringe, this kind of online drama is just like WWE and shouldn't be taken too seriously. Let's all just enjoy the show, but clean up after ourselves once we leave the theater. Peace out.